So if you're a returning subscriber, then you probably know exactly how I feel about budgeting. But what I've realized is I don't think I've actually done a dedicated video talking about why I think you should be budgeting and why it's so important. I don't know, Auntie B. Everyone always talks about budgeting, but I just don't want to do it. Well, first of all, I'm not everyone, I'm your Auntie B. So in this video, I'm going to be outlining 7 key reasons explaining why you need a budget. So the first reason why I think you really should have a budget is because it does help you to really focus. Now for me, this is especially important when you're trying to think about your long-term or your short-term goals. Because when I actually figured out what my expenses are, it was a lot easier for me to figure out my long-term goals as well. Because then it helped me figure out a couple of things, like for example, with long-term goals, how much am I going to need for financial independence or even retirement? But then with short-term goals as well, it really helped me to understand how much I would need to put towards my short-term goals in order to achieve them and how long it would probably take as well. And guys, the reason why I think budgeting is actually just such a core foundation when it comes to personal finance is because if you're not able to budget and understand where your money is going, then how can you expect to save or invest your money? Now, I'm gonna guess that you've got some dreams or you've even got some financial goals. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I would like to save up for a house, and financial independence does sound great. Well, if you're just spending your whole paycheck and you have no idea where your money is actually going, then you're probably less likely to reach those money goals that you currently set. Now, when I'm talking about money or financial goals, if you have no idea how to even set them in the first place, don't worry, I'm always here for you, because I do have a video that talks about 10 financial goals that I think you should be achieving either in your 20s or 30s. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. I will link that up here for you and in the description below. But guys, I cannot stress enough, the minute I started budgeting properly, and I'm not really just talking about you just having a budget and just letting it sit there and not actually being intentional with it. When I really started to budget, I could then understand exactly where my money was going, and ultimately it meant that I could just focus and achieve my goals a lot quicker just because I had a budget. So the second reason why I do think you need a budget is really because it allows you to control your money rather than letting your money control you. Now this is definitely something that is so powerful, and it was a quote that I got from Tony Robbins, and I mentioned that on my Instagram page, so definitely follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. But it's actually so important for you to really control your money rather than letting your money just run rampant and do whatever it wants to do. Yeah, but Auntie V, if I had more money, then I could just save the difference without needing a budget. Now I'm gonna say this one thing, and I know there might be some people that really don't agree with me, but for a lot of people, in order to actually have savings, they don't need to have additional income or earn more money, they just need to budget. Because let me tell you, even if they were to increase their income, for example, there is going to be an element of lifestyle creep with a lot of people. So whenever a lot of people get bonuses or promotions, rather than saving that additional money, they would end up spending it on even more liabilities. So for example, you might get a more expensive car, or you might get a bigger house, or you might even start buying clothes that you don't even need. So really you want to ask yourself, if you're currently getting consistent income but you don't have a budget and you're also still struggling to save money, then a big reason could actually be the fact that you're not controlling your money through a budget. Now of course there are going to be certain people that technically don't need a budget. So for example, if you are completely financially free and you've got all of these assets paying for your expenses, then yeah, probably you wouldn't need a budget. But at some point in time, that same person probably would have had a form of budget or spending plan to make sure that they can actually take control of their finances. So really try and figure out where you're at in this financial journey. So are you currently living paycheck to paycheck, or are you financially free? Because I have a feeling that most people aren't currently in that financially free bucket. So the third reason why I think you need a budget is because it allows you to spend less and save more. Now I would say this is definitely one of my core principles when it comes to personal finance, because let me tell you, the majority of people are living paycheck to paycheck and they have no savings, and the reason why is because they are spending more than they earn. So if someone, for example, is earning about £2,000, a lot of people will then be spending £2,500, and the reason why they're doing that is because they're using debt to finance their lifestyle. Now of course we've been in lockdown, so a lot of people weren't able to spend their money, and so people that actually still had jobs and still had that consistent income coming in, they weren't actually spending that money. But let me tell you, the minute lockdown fully eases up, there's going to be a proportion of people that are ready and itching to spend their money, and I'm telling you, you do not want to be that person. Now why this is so important to understand is because even though you may have been in lockdown and you've probably had a bit of saving, you really want to think about your mindset, and this is why budgeting is going to be so important. Because once lockdown opens up and you're able to go out and hang out with your friends and you're able to go to all of these restaurants, you would be surprised at how much you end up spending, and you could end up depleting all of your savings just because you want to spend it on liabilities. Now am I saying that you shouldn't be going out and having any fun? No, of course not. When lockdown eases, I'm also going to want to enjoy it, but what ideally you would want to do is actually have a spending plan or a budget or whatever you want to call it, really outlining how much you really want to spend, but then also how much you might want to save and invest as well, so that that you can have the best of both worlds. Okay, so rather than just spending my whole paycheck, I could just allocate some money into my spending and I can save at the same time. Now, if you are totally new to budgeting, then don't worry. I have plenty of videos really talking about how to budget your money. Plus, I also have budgeting templates as well. So whether you get paid monthly or weekly, there is a template for both of those situations. Plus, it also gives you a video tutorial really outlining the steps to make your budget. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. I will of course link that in the description below. So the fourth reason why I think you need to budget is because it really does eliminate those bad spending habits. Now, for me, impulse buying was definitely something that I used to do, and it actually wasn't great because I would end up spending money on things that I didn't even need for no absolute reason. Now, this is definitely something that I mentioned in my previous video talking about 15 things that I stopped buying to save money. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. I will of course link that up here for you and in the description below. But if you're actually budgeting properly or really creating a spending plan, then you can just essentially plan out your purchases, and then it really helps you to understand how much you want to save for those purchases, and it means that you're not going to be broke at the end of the month. Yeah, but who wants to plan purchases? That's boring. Well, what's not boring is you not having enough money for retirement because you wanted to impulse buy for the rest of your life, and then now you're going to be living on beans and rice. Now, I know this is a bit of tough love, but I am your Auntie V, okay? I care about your future, because if you're not able to budget your money and all you're doing is just impulse buying every single month, again living paycheck to paycheck, and you might even be using debt to go and finance those purchases, you're really going to end up in this never-ending cycle, and essentially you'll never be able to control your money. Yeah, but who wants to plan purchases? I mean, look at all this stuff. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because this spending culture and this consumer mindset really does need to stop, because it's not doing us any favors, and if we're not careful over the next few years, we can really be in trouble when it comes to retirement. So the fifth reason why I think you need a budget is because I think that budgeting can actually be fun. Now, before you just clock out of this video, hear me out first. Budgeting can actually be fun if you allow it to be. And it's really interesting because whenever I talk to some people, the main objection they have to budgeting is really because they think it's boring. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I definitely used to have that same mindset, but when I actually started budgeting intentionally, I actually really find it fun, and I really look forward to budgeting, which I guess you probably will already know, especially if you are subscribed to my channel, because I have a whole load of different videos talking about my own budget. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, then you might want to think about doing that. And whilst you're down there, you may as well give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel. But I think a key reason why people think budgeting is boring, or they just don't want to budget, is because they feel as if it's really restricting. But it is restricting. Budgeting means I can't even have fun, and I can't even spend my money. Now, for me, I do really think that this is where your mindset is so important, because when it comes to budgeting, for me, it's all about just planning my expenses. That is all it is. I am just basically telling my money what to do. And the reason why I find it fun is because I then get to think about what I'm going to be doing for the month. So for example, if I'm budgeting for May, I'm going to be thinking about, okay, am I going to get a takeaway or am I going to eat out this month? It's really important to know that a budget's primary focus isn't to stop you or restrict you from spending your money at all, but it's to actually help you plan your spending. And again, once you outline your goals, then it's a lot easier for you to understand why you're actually budgeting too. So the sixth reason why I think you do need a budget is because it helps you to be on board when it comes to things like emergencies. Yeah, but do you actually need an emergency fund? Now, again, if you're subscribed to my channel, you already know how I feel about emergency funds. They are so important. I cannot stress enough. And if anything, 2020 has really shown us that an emergency fund is a key priority when it comes to your finances. Now, for me, I did not have an emergency fund at all, and it was only until I started budgeting where I was able to build my emergency fund, because again, it allowed me to figure out how much money I could realistically put towards my emergency fund. Plus, with a budget, it allows you to understand what your expenses are so that you can figure out how much you're going to need when it comes to your emergency fund. Now, if you don't really know what an emergency fund is used for or how you can actually start saving up for that, don't worry. Of course, I already have a video on emergency funds, so that will be linked up here for you and in the description below. But having a budget really does give you guidance, especially when it comes to building that emergency fund. And I always say that with emergency funds, it really does turn things into an inconvenience rather than a total disaster. So the sixth reason why I think you need a budget is just the fact that you feel so much better knowing that your finances are under control. Now, for me, psychologically, this is an absolute game changer, because I then know exactly how much I need to be putting aside for my essential bills. Plus, with a budget, it allows me again to pay myself and God first, so that I know that those really key things are taken care of, and then I can just spend whatever's left. And I think with most people, money can definitely be an emotional subject, and it's something where we don't really tend to talk about very often. But if you're able to take those first steps and really start budgeting, you will be surprised at the element of control that you can have on your money, which is inevitably going to help you feel a lot better and become even more confident. I mean, seeing my money all planned out like this does actually actually make me feel quite happy. Plus, you might even be surprised at how much you can potentially save, and I'm telling you that your future self will thank you for it too. Now again, if you feel like the term budgeting just feels so restrictive, then one thing you can say to yourself is the fact that it's just a spending plan. So you're literally just telling your money where to go and what to do. So the next reason why I think you need a budget is really because it creates safe for you to not only pay off your debt, but to also save and invest as well. Now for me, this is absolutely huge, because if I did not have a budget, guys, I am telling you, I would not have been able to pay off my debt in about 18 months. I definitely would not be able to save over £1,000, and I definitely would not be able to start investing, because again, I would have no idea where my money is going, and I would essentially still be living paycheck to paycheck. Because before I even started budgeting, I had no idea what my essential bills even came up to, and so I didn't actually know how much I was spending a month. I mean, I know I was spending my whole paycheck, but that was literally all I knew. Plus it meant that I had no money to even put aside or to actually overpay on my debt. What, budgeting can really help with this? Well, I am basically living proof, and I'm telling you from personal experience, budgeting really allowed me to not only control my finances, but actually accelerate my goals. So that meant that I was able to pay off my debt relatively quickly, save a high percentage of my income, and then also have money to invest as well. So again, I cannot stress enough, but actually creating a spending plan can truly transform your finances if you let it. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, why else do you think budgeting is important? I do post every Tuesday and Friday, so if you would like to know more, then of course you can subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys on Tuesday. It's not a game, it's a rich thing.